Swami everyone. Vijay Dasmi to all of you. And it's going to be a special class because, we're not starting something new, but we're going to learn something today. So I think that's a point that we should remember, and let this be. We are not starting a new course or something. Let this be a new start to something in the upcoming year. So let's keep that in mind. And at the start, this is the day that Devi killed Mahishasura. And you're not going to kill Mahishasura or any person that we hate or who we consider as our enemy or something. But we're going to kill the ignorant part of us. And as Sangeeta put one in Navaratri 2021, let's kill the Shatritus within us. The Loham set. So yes, we'll get started. Please join along with me. And today is going to be an interactive and quite a nice session. You all will enjoy it for sure. Oh, Om Varalakshmi cha Vidmahe Vishnu Patni cha Dhimahi Tanno Lakshmi Prachodayate. Om Vinaya Vrincha Patni cha Dhimahi Prachodayate. Om Tatam Varyaya Vidhe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guru Prachodayate. Om Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Geetandagiri Guru Maharaj ki Jai. Once again, welcoming you all to a wonderful session awaiting our arrival. And today we are going to see yoga in modern India. So if you have gone book already, you will know that we'll be seeing maybe names of different ashrams, personality specific, and yes, also yoga and quite a variety of places and people and above them more. Okay, just it has, but thanks to Dr. Sir with us, that he'll give us a wonderful insight. Let me share the PDF.
Namaste everyone. Welcome to this evening's session. I hope my voice is coming to clear. Fine, okay. We have a thunderstorm here and internets are an issue. So we are trying to go through today's session without canceling it. But if it breaks up too much, we will cancel it because we want to make sure we communicate clearly. Dhivya, are you able to share the PPT? I mean the PDF? Okay, while you're getting it ready, I'll give an introduction to today. Today's session is looking at a very contemporary aspect in India. And this is looking at yoga in modern India. And through this, I have tried to give people an understanding of how different traditions have evolved and grown. Now, if you notice this lesson, you'll see that it just has a lot of names. And this is why normally when we set question papers, we do not set anything from this chapter because it's very difficult. You have a list of names of important yoga scientists, a list of names of world famous eminent yoga masters, some important ashrams of modern India, important institutions doing yoga research, and some important yoga institutions in India. So if you look at this, you'll say it's just a list of names, which is why in today's session, I want to bring those names alive to you and describe a few stories about these people so that you get to know some of these people, most of whom I have been blessed to meet thanks to Swamiji and Ammaji. So I start off with the yoga scientists, and you'll see that an entire page is given to these amazing people. For me, my yoga research career has been built on the shoulders of these giants. And hence, it's with great fondness I talk about them. And the first name, this was put in alphabetical order, okay? Whenever you make a list of eminent people like this, safest option is alphabetical order. Otherwise, hierarchy and age and so many factors come in. Dr. B.K. Anand, he was one of the trio, along with Dr. G.S. Chinna, who is about 10 names down. If you come down about 10, you'll find Dr. G.S. Chinna from New Delhi. And Dr. B.K. Anand, Chinna and Baldev Singh, there were three of them. They were the first to actually do scientific research in yoga in a medical institution, the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi, which is one of the top medical institutions in India. And the research they did was primarily on yogis who used to stay in pits. So they'd dig a big hole in the ground and bury themselves in there for a few days. And this is the challenge that they took up, that what is happening physiologically to these yogis. That's in the early 60s, you had this research done by Dr. B.K. Anand, Dr. G.S. Chinna and Baldev Singh, three of them. And it sort of was one of the first times medical doctors in medical institutions researched yoga. Now, long before that, of course, Swami Kuvalayananda, right from 1920s, he had started researching in Kaivalya Dharma. But please remember, Kaivalya Dharma was and is a yoga institute. Hence, the medical researchers are always very skeptical of any research coming out from a yoga institute highlighting the effects of yoga. And this is why the role that B.K. Anand, Chinna and Baldev Singh played is so vital, where they took it out of the yoga ashram, the yoga institute, and put yoga research in mainstream medical setting. This is where their names come in. The next name in the list, T.R. Anantharaman. He was at BHU, Banaras Hindu University, in Varanasi, Kashi, Banaras. And he was the prime force behind what became the Indian Academy of Yoga. And the Indian Academy of Yoga aimed in the 70s to bring together all the intellectual giants in the field of yoga to share their wisdom and knowledge with others. Due to the usual problem between intellectuals, you can never get them all to come onto the same team and stay together. And so it kept on struggling. But Swamiji played an important role, and I still hold my fellowship of the Indian Academy of Yoga very dear to my heart. Professor Anantharaman, he was a metallurgist, and he wrote a very beautiful book on the history of yoga as understanding the tradition in its spiritual context. The next person is Dr. K. Arunachalam from Madurai. He was a Gandhian and a very staunch Gandhian, and Swamiji and him shared deep friendship. We met many times when he visited Pondicherry and we went to Madurai. And he was part of the Gandhi Museum in Madurai and one of the founding fathers of the yoga movement in Tamil Nadu. A very saintly person who embodied the teachings of Gandhi. Now, the next two people that we are talking about, Dr. T.K. Bera and Dr. M.V. Bole, are both from Kaivaladama, which is one of the oldest institutions in India. And they did amazing work. Dr. T.K. Bera in recent times, but Dr. M.V. Bole, who recently passed away, was one of the most eminent yoga researchers, and he had joined Kaivaladama as an MBBS doctor, and then Swami Kuvalainanda sent him to Delhi to do his MD physiology at AIIMS. I told All India Institute of Medical Sciences. And he was, if I'm not wrong, the first person at AIIMS to do MD physiology, but then came back and did research work in yoga. And so much work he did. But the problem was it was all published in Yoga Mimamsa, the journal of Kaivaladama. And because of that, the mainstream medical people never got to know of that research. Which is why for me, it is very important that when you do the research in yoga, you have to publish in journals that other fellow medical professionals will read. Otherwise, the message will not get there. It will be read by the yoga people. Talking to the converts is of no use. You have to be able to spread the message to those who are skeptic. And this is where Dr. Bole, who has done so much work, his name is not found when you go and search it on PubMed, and you don't find his name because all his work was published in Yoga Mimamsa. And today we are trying to see how that can be brought out and due acknowledgement given to that great man. The next name is Dr. Ramesh Bijlani, again from AIIMS. So if you look at this, you find how influential AIIMS has been. The All India Institute of Medical Sciences as one of the premier institutes in India. Dr. Ramesh Bijlani, he retired as professor and head physiology. And it is to his credit that the first medical textbook of physiology with a chapter on yoga was published about 25, 30 years ago. Till then, no physiology textbook had yoga in it. He brought out a medical textbook of physiology and he had a chapter on yoga. And guess who wrote that chapter? Dr. M.V. Bole. And this is how all these connections start to come alive. And Dr. Bijlani, after his retirement, has joined Aurobindo Ashram in Delhi and become a spiritual mentor to so many. And one of the greatest human beings I know who has such humility, such grace, and such divinity. A very, very amazing man who has done a lot of work. His contribution was to setting up a lifestyle clinic in AIIMS, again about 25 years ago. The first lifestyle clinic in AIIMS where they started a 10-day yoga-based lifestyle program. And that is the type of work he brought in. So being a medical doctor, professor and head of physiology, he was able to do that and now others continue his work. The next one is Dr. B.T. Chidananda Murthy, who was the director of the Central Council for Yoga Research in Delhi and one of the most eminent naturopaths, and has spearheaded the movement of a graduate program, a medical graduate program in yoga and naturopathy. I already talked about G.S. Chinna, who worked with B.K. Anand at AIIMS. Dr. K.K. Datte in Mumbai, whose pioneering work was on yoga and hypertension. He was one of the first in India to show that yoga had a role in hypertension, and we often quote his work. Similarly, T. Desi Raju from NIMHANS. NIMHANS is the National Institute for Mental Health in India. Again, a topmost medical institution. And Dr. Desi Raju, he was a pioneer in trying to research consciousness. And his attempts to research consciousness, and he and Swamiji, whenever Swamiji would visit Bangalore, we would visit Desi Raju. And Desi Raju was the mentor of Shirley Tellis, who today is the most prolific yoga researcher on this planet. The most prolific published yoga researcher, Shirley Tellis, was a student of Desi Raju. Ganesh Shankar, he has been the head of the Department of Yoga in Sagar University, one of the first central universities having a yoga department. S.K. Ganguly, who retired as principal of Kaivalya Dhamma, and M.L. Garote of Kaivalya Dhamma, they have done amazing research work. And again, Yoga Mimamsa, there are issues from 1920s, and you can get a PDF copy by paying a certain fee. It's quite reasonable now to Kaivalya Dhamma, and you can get all these research studies published in Yoga Mimamsa by these amazing people. M.L. Garote, again, amazing work. His son continues his work. Dr. Garote continues his work. Of course, Swamiji, I don't want to talk about much. All I would say is the Lion of Pondicherry, who made sure that yoga would come into the medical setting, not just for research, but for training young medicos. And today, the work at JIPMER, the work at SITER of SBV, well, we owe it all to Swamiji's vision to integrate yoga and modern medicine. K.S. Gopal was at JIPMER, and in the 80s did some work with Swamiji on the bandhas, bandhas in Vajrasana, using students who were doing 6-month training at the ashram. This work was done by Gopal. M.M. Gore at Kaivalya Dhamma, K.S. Joshi. K.S. Joshi was from Kaivalya Dhamma, and Swami Kovalananda sent him to Sagar. You remember I said Sagar University, the first central university with a yoga department. K.S. Joshi was the founder of that center and served on the Central Council for Yoga with Swamiji and Ammaji. Again, very, very great man. P.V. Karambelkar from Kaivalya Dhamma. Again, lot of research work at Kaivalya Dhamma. Dr. Krishna Bhatt at Manipal. He was one to bring in yoga therapy courses in Manipal and then in Mangalore University, bringing in concept of master's degree in yoga therapy, before anybody was thinking about it. Swami Kovalananda, what can I say about that great man? Well, today is Kaivalya Dhamma's foundation day, because in 1923, yes, 1923, 1924, yeah. It was founded by Swami Kovalananda, and Swami Kovalananda founded it on Vijaya Dasami. Today's day is Vijaya Dasami day, a very special day, and he founded Kaivalya Dhamma 97 years ago. We are soon going to be celebrating the 100th year. And Swami Kovalananda was one of those visionaries who envisioned scientific research in yoga to disprove the skeptics and those who thought that yoga was just, that a snake man's trick and, yogis climbing up ropes, the Indian rope trick and snake charmer's land. He wanted to take yoga out of that mysticism and give it a scientific basis. Dr. Lajpat Rai at MDNIY, which is the Central Institute for Yoga in Delhi, he did a lot of work in physiology. And of course, my own yoga guru, Madan Mohan sir, and I really, really must offer my salutations to that great man who in the 80s teamed up with Swamiji. And the pioneering work in Savitri Pranayama and Shavasana that was published in, I believe, 83, 84. One of the first works that really, really went into pranayama and oxygen consumption, showing that when you relax, your need for oxygen falls way below what is there even in sleep, which goes along with Wallace's idea that this is a wakeful hypometabolic state. And Professor Madan Mohan has been a dear mentor of mine. I have known him as a mentor, as a boss, loving boss, who always gives his subordinates an opportunity to grow, credit where due, humble beyond measure, sharing generously beyond comparison. And what an amazing team he created. At Jipmer with my dear Kaviraja Udupa and myself, we formed the OM team. Ananda for A, U for Udupa, M for Madan Mohan. AUM, the OM team. And the only problem is none of our papers that our team published, we never got that AUM sequence. So, either we got Madan Mohan Ananda Udupa, Madan Mohan Udupa, or Udupa Madan Mohan. We never managed that AUM sequence. And now, because Madan Mohan sir has sort of taken the back seat, Dr. Meena has joined Kavi and me. So we have a new version, like Men in Black, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, like that. Now the OM team has Meena representing the M there. I'll tell you Madan Mohan sir's contribution. You go on the net and you look at all the work I have done. Every one of my works has been motivated by him, supported by him, and really, really taught me what yoga research is and continues to support us in such a beautiful way. Sir's not feeling well these days and struggling with health issues. And I just pray the Mother Goddess to bless him with the best outcomes. Dr. Nagaratna and Dr. Nagendra, a sister-brother team. And Dr. Nagendra is the yoga guru of the present Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi. And Dr. Nagendra was working with NASA. He was an engineer working with NASA, left his job in the USA and came back to India and started S. Vyasa. So they say from NASA to S. Vyasa. That is how they narrate his history. And today, the most influential voice in yoga and in all the policy matters of yoga, he is the current president of Indian Yoga Association, Guruji Nagendraji, as we refer to him, really, really taking yoga to the masses, setting up the first yoga university in the S. Vyasa. And today they have thousands of students doing so many courses from the university that has the highest grade by the National Accreditation System. His sister, Nagaratna Didi, a medical doctor, she published in the 1980s an amazing paper in the British Medical Journal on yoga and asthma. Again, one of those path-breaking papers for yoga research, yoga and asthma, published in a British medical journal, an indexed medical journal. And whenever I talk to her, what can we do about yoga research? She says, you have to play the game. She says, you are in the game of research for medical science. You play the game by their rules and show them that yoga works. After that, you can create your own rules, your own journals, and then you explore the other vistas of yoga. But initially, we have to play the game by its rules. You play cricket, you play by its rules. You play football and soccer, play by its rules. You play golf, play by its rules. You play yoga research in the medical community, play by the rules. That has always been her loving advice to me. And Didi and we work together on the National Diabetes Program. Amazing research with about 300,000 people participating in it, and amazing outcomes, again showing that yoga works, publishing in gold standard journals. And one of the works recently got a special award in one of the diabetes conferences in USA. Amazing human being, Didi, one of those real amazing human beings. Dr. M.B. Rajapulkar. Rajapulkar was at Kaivaladama and then went off. He was a physiologist. And again, lot of work in integrating yoga and modern medicine. And now I come to another favorite of mine, Dr. Selvamurthy. This name is always a special one for me because such a great man. He was a friend, a very close friend of the former President of India, Abdul Kalam. And he and Shri Abdul Kalam in the President's house in Rashtrapati Bhavan in New Delhi would sit together and sing South Indian Carnatic music. They would sing Tamil songs together in Rashtrapati Bhavan while having the simplest of meals. Both of these men, the simplest of the simple, and yet such great human beings. Dr. Selvamurthy was the first to show how yoga can help the soldiers fighting at the highest battlefield in the whole world, Siachen Glacier, where the Indian and Pakistani troops are up there in sub-zero temperature in the standoff. And he said, well, yoga can help people. As a physiologist, I know it. Can it help our Indian soldiers to be healthy and be better versions of themselves at such high altitude? So they took yoga there. And yes, it helps. Then another part of our Indian troops are in the Thar desert of Gujarat and Rajasthan, that area. Again, the boundary with Pakistan. They are in the middle of the desert. Can yoga help in hot, dry climate? Again, he did research. And through the Defense Research and Development Organization and the Defense Institute of Physiology in Delhi, amazing work done in our soldiers, giving yoga to our soldiers of the Indian Army. And this is at least 30, 35 years ago. Most people don't even know that Indian soldiers have been having yoga as part of their training. It's a well-kept secret. Only those in the research field, we know it. And it's amazing what they have been able to do to help them physiologically, psychologically, and dare I say, spiritually also. Dr. Selvamurthy continues to bless us as an advisor of SITER, and for our recent yoga day gave an amazing speech. He is currently the chancellor of one of the Amity universities, I believe in Chandigarh, if I'm not wrong. Then coming to Shirley Tillis. What can I say about Shirley? Amazing researcher. Published, oh my God, hundreds and hundreds of papers in the best of journals. She was a student of Desi Raju at NIMHANS, I told you. She went on to become the leading researcher at S. Vyasa with Dr. Nagendra and Dr. Nagaratna, and then has shifted to the Patanjali Yoga Peeth, where with the benevolent support of Swami Ramdev, who told her, Shirley, you come here and whatever you want for yoga research, I will provide you financially. Well, any researcher who has struggled getting money for grants for yoga research, could not give that up, and she has joined him. An amazing work, publishing in amazing journals. She continues to astound us with her work, and a very, very benevolent supporter of so many young researchers. R.H. Singh at BHU, who continues to take the Indian Academy of Yoga forward. Subhash Ranade in Pune, who also did a lot of work in his own right. K.N. Udupa at BHU. I have to tell you about this guy. The one below him, S.L. Vinekar, again, one of those amazing researchers at Kaivalya Dhamma who did a lot. But K.N. Udupa, this guy was one of the pioneers in yoga research. Don't confuse it with Udupa, who's my friend, Kabiraj Udupa, who's part of the AUM team. Udupa is a typical name in one part of Karnataka, near Udupi. Udupi Sri Krishna, Udupa, it's in that area. People's family name is Udupa. K.N. Udupa was at BHU, and I must owe it to him that the understanding of how disease occurs, psychic, psychosomatic, somatic and organic phases of psychosomatic disorders, I have got that from his writings. And he was doing amazing yoga research and everybody was very happy, but he was not happy. Because what happened was, in yoga research, you cannot get subjects because you don't have funding. Now, if I were doing a drug trial, I could pay my subjects 1,000 euros per week. I would get a lot of people to sign up for my research just for the money's sake, okay? Even if they don't convinced about it. 1,000 euros per week, that's the going rate for medical research, okay? So you can imagine how many subjects you will get volunteering. Now for yoga, you give them nothing. You just say, okay, you'll feel better, it will be good for you. So he struggled with human subjects so much that he gave up on human beings and went to the rats. So he started doing yoga research with rats. So he started doing a study where he had rats in a test tube upside down. And he said, what is the effect of Shirsasana, the headstand, on rats? He actually went to that extreme because he really got tired of human experiments. And that was the last straw. Because the big guy of yoga in those days, Swami Dhirendra Brahmachari. Today we have Swami Ramdev, the big guy. Well, Dhirendra Brahmachari was even bigger in those days. He was the yoga guru of the first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. He was the yoga guru of the Iron Woman of India, Indira Gandhi. What more do you need? In those days, what he said was the law. He had that power. And Dhirendra Brahmachari got really put off. He said, this guy is doing yoga research using rats. How insulting to yoga. And he stopped every bit of money that was coming to Udupa. And after that, you never heard of Udupa ever again. This is what happens when you do something that is so different and antagonize the powers who are up there. So these are people who have laid the foundation for yoga research in India. Today you have a dime a dozen. Every medical college, every physiology department is doing yoga research. Every yoga department in any university is doing yoga research. It's become like, okay, everybody will do something. But where is the quality? I question the quality of yoga research today. Because what has happened, people are doing it for promotion. People are doing it for the sake of completing their dissertation. They are not doing it as a passion. Whereas all these people I have talked about in this list, they were passionate about yoga research. And hence they were researching yoga for the sake of yoga alone, not for the name, not for a dissertation, not for a publication. The publication, the dissertation, the name was the fruit that would come on its own. They were not attached to it. Today, people publish for the sake of promotion. They say that for the sake of, looking good on your biodata. And that is why I don't even include names of people in recent times, because I am not finding too many people who are worthy of this. Shirley Tellis continues to be a star. Dr. Nagendra, Dr. Nagaratna continue to be stars. Vijlani sir, Selvamurthy sir have moved away from active research. Madan Mohan sir continues to guide us. And well, we take it forward with that zest, with that passion for research, so that when we publish, it should reach the people who are skeptical. It should convince them that there is data supporting yoga as a science. And then that way you get it into patient care. That is the way forward. So these are some thoughts on the important yoga scientists. Now I will take a short break while Divya reads out a few of the names of the eminent yoga masters of modern India. And I'm going to tell you stories about all these guys also. Today is my storytelling class because all of these people, thanks to Swamiji and Ammaji, I have been blessed by most of them. And I tell you, I cannot express what a blessing it is to have known these people in real time. Okay, not pasted up on a poster. Know them in real time. And I tell you, some amazing people are there. So yes, Divya.
So some world famous eminent yoga masters of modern India: Brahma Rishi Vishwatna Bhavra, Swami Chidananda Saraswati, Sri TKV Desikachar, Swami Digambarji, Sri Dhirendra Brahmachari, and then Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri. Maybe I'll stop here because then I think we'll go to.
Again, you will notice I try to keep the alphabetical order, and I'm being very safe there, because there's a lot of conflict of interest there. Fine. Let's start off with the first one. Brahma Rishi Vishwatma Bhavra. He was in North India, and one of those yogis who, when you looked at him, you knew he was a yogi. He had that tejas. We talk about the tejas, that luminosity. And his student, Swami Yogananda, not to be confused with other Yoganandas, continued his work. And today in Kashi, my dear Dhivya Prabhaji, she recently conducted the Kashi Yoga Festival. And they are doing amazing work, continuing from Brahma Rishi Vishwatma Bhavra. So it's interesting, Vishwatma Bhavra was connected to Swamiji. There's a beautiful old photo of them together when Swamiji was in the north. His student, Swami Yogananda, visited us in 1989 for the first when we had that third decennial convocation of Vishwa Yoga Samaj. And then now his disciple, Divya Prabhaji, who's from the UK and settled in Banaras, she and I are connected. This is how the traditions continue. The traditions continue taking it forward. The next is Swami Chidananda Saraswati. Swami Chidananda Saraswati was a prime disciple of Swami Shivananda Saraswati. Swami Shivananda, who settled in Rishikesh, and his ashram was started there, the Divine Life Society. Swami Shivananda was a medical doctor from Kerala and Kupuswami Pillai. And he worked in those days, what was Burma, today is called Myanmar, as a doctor, and then came back and became a Swami and settled in Rishikesh, a towering personality. And Swami Shivananda, I must say, he was a guru factory. He was a guru factory because he churned out guru after guru after guru. It's astounding. If you look at modern yoga, the guru who has churned out the most gurus who have gone all around this planet, I think Swami Shivananda gets the prize for that. He gets the medal for that for sure. And Swami Chidananda Saraswati decided to stay where his guru was and continued the work of the Divine Life Society. And I was blessed to meet him a few times with Swamiji, a very soft, very dignified sadhu and amazing intellect, Swami Chidananda Saraswati. Now we'll be talking about a few others who then went around the world. Swami Satyananda, who went off to found the Bihar School of Yoga. The Bihar School of Yoga, which then, became a university in between, has gone back to being an ashram and took over basically the whole of Australia and New Zealand with their teachings and created what was called as Satyananda Yoga. The Satyananda Yoga, which came out of Swami Shivananda's teaching, and Swamiji knew Swami Satyananda a lot. They traveled a lot to Australia together. And he said Swami Satyananda got all his knowledge from proofreading Swami Shivananda's books. Because Swami Shivananda had so many books, and Swami Satyananda used to have, that was his karma yoga, to sit and proofread the books. And he learned from his guru's books. That's what Swamiji used to say. And the whole Bihar School of Yoga, and then Swami Niranjanananda, who continues that tradition. Others like Swami Satchidananda, who went to USA and founded the Yogaville, and also his work down in Coimbatore. And, for those of you who know an Indian actor called Rajinikanth, well, Rajinikanth's guru, spiritual guru, was Swami Satchidananda. And I'm sorry to say it, but Swami Satchidananda suffered a heart attack right after watching Rajinikanth's movie called Baba. Now, Baba was one of Rajinikanth's worst movies, supposed to be a spiritual movie, but actually was one of his worst and flops. But he invited his guru to watch the movie, and it's very ironical. The guru watched the movie and then soon after that suffered a heart attack. I'm sorry to put this out, but I like these bits of human history because it's very interesting how all these bits come together. So I'm back. Hope you can hear me now. I told you we are having some issues with the net here. So I was at Swami Sachidananda. Swami Sachidananda went to the USA. I told you Yoga Bill he founded. And from him, Dean Ornish created the program of reversing heart disease. The most popular aspect, which today has become the first such program to be given health insurance coverage in North America, is Dean Ornish's Reversing Heart Disease program. And how did he get that program? From whose teachings? Swami Sachidananda. So you can see here the influence of Swami Shivananda going through Swami Sachidananda, leading to Dean Ornish taking the teachings. And today Medicare covers this program to reverse heart disease. And they have gone on to look at reversing diabetes. And they are even looking at reversing cancer. Studies on changes in the genes and gene expression, telomeres and all is coming out of Dean Ornish. So you have Satyananda, Chidananda, Sachidananda, and then Vishnu Devananda. Vishnu Devananda, who took these teachings, he was called the Flying Yogi. He took them to the Bahamas and started this whole chain. The original chain yoga studio is Swami Vishnu Devananda. And in fact, some of my colleagues lay the blame of the modern chain yoga studio at his feet, because he started this chain of ashrams, Shivananda ashrams, all over the world, teaching a program which was a 1-month program, at the end of which you became a certified yoga teacher. Now, when we talk of the history of yoga and where this idea that in 1 month you can become a yoga teacher, I think Swami Vishnu Devananda must take a lot of blame. Because this then became the 200-hour standard. Where did this 200-hour standard come from? Not Yoga Alliance. It came from Swami Vishnu Devananda's 1-month residential program. Not even 1 month, I think it's 28 days. It's an actual program at the end at which here in India you get Yoga Shironmani, which means the crest jewel of yoga award at the end of 1 month of yoga study. Now at the end of 6 months, Swamiji used to give people Yoga Charya, Yoga Charini. Amma said even after 6 months, they are not worth it. She made it Yoga Sadhaka and Yoga Sadhaki. Because, you have to be worthy of it. Now, this is not to criticize them, but we have to put the blame where it needs to be. Swami Vishnu did a lot of good work, no doubt about it. And out of his teachings, for example, my dear Muggs, she has come out of the tradition, and what beautiful respect for yoga and the tradition she has imbibed. But that was partly because of her guru, who is Harry Dickman. He gave her that attitude. If it were only Vishnu, I don't know whether she would have had that. That is where the living guru connection is so vital. The living guru connection is where that connection comes. And, I have often asked Muggs about it because she studied as a young kid with Harry. And then Harry said, well, you better go and get, an official sort of yoga certification. And then she went to Swami Vishnu Devananda. So what I'm putting here is all of them went off. And I believe in South Africa, it was Karunananda, if I'm not wrong. Was it Karunananda or Karmananda? He went down to South Africa with Swami Shivananda's teachings. So Vishnu Devananda going off to the Bahamas and, worldwide Shivananda ashrams, Sachidananda to the Yoga Bill, Satyananda to the Bihar school. And this is how Chidananda staying put. Swami Jyotirmayananda, again, an amazing intellect. His work on the Upanishads, his work on the Vedanta is par excellence. And whenever we were thinking about this, Ammaji and I, we used to refer his writings. Swami Jyotirmayananda's commentary on the Bhagavad Gita is one of the best. Very short, small book, but excellent perspective. Swami Jyotirmayananda, who is in the USA. So this is how the Shivananda tradition grew. And Divya, when you make your PPT, in that Shivananda tradition, please keep Swami Chidananda. When I was telling you the summary this evening, I left him out. So please add him into that summary at the end. Okay, then going on to Sri TKV Deshikachar. Now, Sri TKV Deshikachar, one of the most influential yogis in modern times, whose students have codified the whole yoga therapy in North America. If you want to know where yoga therapy came from, the International Association of Yoga Therapists and all the standards, you don't have to look further than the Vini Yoga of Sri TKV Deshikachar. Because both Larry Payne and Richard Miller, both of them trained with Deshikachar. And they were the founders of IAYT. So I'm just giving you the modern history, how this came. TKV Deshikachar is the son of T. Krishnamacharya. Sri T. Krishnamacharya, who is often referred to as the father of modern yoga. And it is a well-deserved title. Because if you look at the major modern influence, of course, we cannot discount Swami Shivananda in his guru factory that produced all those gurus that went all around the planet. We cannot discount him, of course. But Krishnamacharya, he brought 3 amazing students who became teachers and spread the light of his tradition. The first one was BKS Iyengar. BKS Iyengar, a student of Krishnamacharya. In fact, BKS Iyengar's sister was married to Krishnamacharya. So he was actually his brother-in-law. And so Krishnamacharya was teaching his young brother-in-law who had a lot of health issues. And then BKS Iyengar took these teachings and light on yoga. Yoga went to the West and asana became yoga. Okay, who to blame for asana is equal to yoga? My dear yoga uncle, BKS Iyengar. If today the world equates asana and yoga, the blame has to go to Sri BKS Iyengar, because that is the impact people had. This amazing Indian man who came and gave these spellbinding demonstrations of what the body could do. And they said, what is this? He said, yoga. And so they said, oh, this is yoga. And then people said, well, I want to do it. He said, you're not flexible enough. They said, then we'll leave. He said, well, I'll try some props. And that's how props came into yoga. So yoga, asana is equal to yoga, and props in yoga, credit, blame, depending on which angle you look at it, Sri BKS Iyengar. Now, the moment BKS Iyengar became popular, people said, where did you learn it from? And so his guru, Krishnamacharya, became popular. Nobody knew of Krishnamacharya till BKS Iyengar became popular. I'm giving you how this, humanistic angle of the history came. And because this is a small group and a private group, I'm sharing this. I would not do this in a public speech, because this is not to disrespect any of them, but to give you a contemporary picture. And Ammaji has put all of this in her volume 2 of History of Yoga. Every bit of this I know because of Ammaji. Okay, I'll tell you that much. Now, what happened is, Krishnamacharya had a senior student called Pattabhi Joyce. Now, Pattabhi Joyce was the actual one who taught most of the time to Iyengar. So Iyengar, though he claims Krishnamacharya is guru, he was trained most of the time by Pattabhi Joyce. And Pattabhi Joyce ended up becoming popular because, again, tagged with Iyengar and Krishnamacharya. But then this is where my Swamiji comes in. Because Swamiji was running Anand Ashram in Pondicherry, and Swamiji knew all of these guys. He knew Pattabhi Joyce a lot. So he used to say, okay, how are you? And Pattabhi Joyce said, I have a son called Manju. And he said, why don't you call him and ask him to teach a few classes in your ashram? So Swamiji said, okay, fine, because Swamiji was always open and generous. I have that same feeling. So Swamiji, in his innocence, invited Manju to come and teach. And Manju gave a weekend session. And a couple of students who were training with Swamiji for the 6 months said, oh, we like this asana better. And they left with Manju. That's what happened. Manju ran off with Swamiji's students. Now, that is one way to look at it. my father would say, well, those guys never could keep this teaching, so they needed that, and so they went off, that's all. They were not ready for this, they were ready for that, and my father was very open about it. Those guys who went from my father's ashram became Pattabhi Jois's first American yoga teachers. Now, I'm not even going to bring the names in, but the origin of Pattabhi Jois's teaching in North America is by these guys, Mart Whitwell and others, who actually came out of this. And this is not just my story. You look at the website of Pattabhi Jois and they actually mention this. They even mention it. They don't say he stole Swamiji's students. They said, you know, after being impressed by Manju, they went and then they went on. But the truth is, you know, same thing that has happened to me recently with some of my dear friends who ran off with some of our students and teachers who were ready to run off. That's all. History repeats. That's why I said my father's failings, I still have a lot of them. Be generous to a fault and have that innocence to invite everybody in, and then they run off with your students. Well, if somebody can run off with one of my students, it means that person was never my student. So I don't lose anything. So that's a different story. Divya knows a bit about this. Pattabhi Jois coined this concept, Ashtanga. And I tell you again, today is my day of blaming people. This concept of how in the world the practice of a series of asanas could become Ashtanga, I really don't know. And they keep on claiming Pattabhi Jois is a Sanskrit scholar. No Sanskrit scholar would ever use that term for what he is doing. When Maharishi Patanjali's Ashtanga is there, how can anybody who understands Sanskrit and understands the culture ever go for that? But anyway, Pattabhi Jois became popular. Of course, later on people found that he was not only teaching asanas, he was doing other stuff which was not so nice to people while they were in asanas, and you know, has had his fall from grace as most of the gurus have had. That is something which we have to acknowledge. Most of these people were using yoga for their own personal whims and fancies, and no wonder they had to fall from their height where they were placed on the pedestal. So Pattabhi Jois became popular because of Iyengar. Iyengar and Pattabhi Jois, Krishnamacharya becomes popular, and then comes in Krishnamacharya's own son, my most beloved and respected Deshikacharya. And I love him dearly because as a young boy, many years ago, when I first started to write my books, and I used to send it to him, I remember him commenting on my books, on my articles, and blessing me by saying, may your future be bright like the rising sun. Now, for someone to bless a youngster who could potentially be a threat to your own son, because his son Kaustubh and me, we are contemporaries, we are friends, we, you know, sort of are in the same field if you think of it. And instead of saying, oh, there's this guy coming up and what if he's a threat to my son's popularity, blah, 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 blah. Instead of all of that, he had that greatness, that large-heartedness to bless me with unconditional love. And to this day, I always feel in my heart my gratitude for Deshikacharya sir. I offer him my gratitude because come what may, the promise I gave him, the promise I've given Menaka ji, I will always keep to the end of my life because of their grace in my life. Now, initially, Deshikacharya sir was not so interested in all of this. And, you know, his father was teaching and people were coming and going and he was busy becoming an engineer. And I can understand that because, you know, when I was in school, I was like, I'm going to be an architect. I had read this Fountainhead. Never let young kids read Fountainhead by Ayn Rand, please. The worst thing youngsters can read, it should be banned from young people. And what I did was I read it and I wanted to become like Howard Rock and an architect and the ego and I will go out and do this. And Swamiji was really mad at that time. He's like, thousands of years of tradition and my son wants to break it. I also wanted to be a cricketer, okay? Because he wants to be a cricketer and an architect and he's going to break this thousands of years of tradition. Swamiji would be, shouting in class like this. I never knew it. I was still in school. And when I would come back, the students would say, oh, the tradition you should do. And I'm like, why are they all advising me? As a teenager, you don't like advice. And I'm like, why are all of them taking me and advising me? And it used to be weird. And then I heard what my father was saying. Well, for 1 year, I had those issues and then I came back onto track. So I can understand Sri Deshikachar having that rebellion against his father who was steeped in orthodox tradition. If you look at Krishnamacharya, you will see deep tradition of the highest Brahmanical sort. And Deshikachar had this modern perspective, a more modern intellectual perspective. But then his life changed one day when he realized the impact his father was having on people's lives. And he has talked about how he saw people being benefited by his father and it transformed his perspective. And then he took up the tradition. And his commentary on the Yoga Sutras is one of the best. Very short, but amazing. And my own chanting of the Yoga Sutras, I offer my salutations to him because it is due to him I started chanting the Yoga Sutras, which has become part of my teaching for the past 20 years. I owe it to Deshikachar sir very, very much. Now, if you look at this, same Krishnamacharya, you have Patabi Joyce, the Ashtanga, Vinyasa sequence, hardcore. You have the Iyengar tradition with all its props and its fancy stuff. And then you have the Deshikachar tradition teaching, which is primarily chanting. There's a lot of emphasis on Vedic chanting. Iyengar doesn't have it. Patabi Joyce doesn't have it. But Deshikachar has the chanting. It has more emphasis on the cultural context, which is lost when you look at the Iyengar and Patabi Joyce. Iyengar, Patabi Joyce is sterile yoga as compared to the Deshikachar perspective. And people say, how can this happen? How can three students of the same teacher have divergent perspectives? Well, each of them received from their teacher what they were ready to receive. And so when Iyengar was learning, what Iyengar was ready to receive, he received from Krishnamacharya. When Patabi Joyce was learning, he received what he was ready. And when Deshikachar was ready, his father gave him the teachings he was ready for. And this is a sign of the true tradition where the guru gives the student what they are ready for, and it is not copycat. And people always say, why are they so different? They are so different because each of them is different. Their requirement was different. Their path was different. And so their guru, Krishnamacharya, gave them what they needed for their growth and their pathway in their life. This is where we understand the tradition of yoga. So speaking of Krishnamacharya, you have Deshikachar. We went from Deshikachar, we went off there. Now coming to Swami Digambarji. Now Swami Digambarji, who is Digambarji? Well, I told you of Swami Kuvalayananda. So let me now tell you his context. Swami Kuvalayananda was a student of Sant Madhav Das Maharaj. Sant Madhav Das, and in fact, Swami Kuvalayananda, when he found a certain creation of vacuum in the abdomen after some of the practices like Nauli and Udyana, he called it the Madhav Das vacuum. Because in science, when you find something, you name it after the eminent scientist. So he actually named that as Madhav Das vacuum, Swami Kuvalayananda. Instead of saying Kuvalayananda vacuum, see, this is where the respect for the tradition, the student respecting the teacher. He said, this discovery I offer to my guru, Madhav Das vacuum. Google it, you may find it. It's a very interesting story. Sant Madhav Das of Mallar, he had two primary disciples. They would have had many, but two of them became world famous. One is Swami Kuvalayananda, and Kuvalayananda was succeeded by Digambarji. So the list has Digambarji, who was the successor of Swami Kuvalayananda. He was succeeded by Swami Maheshananda, And now Swami Maheshananda recently has passed away. And I think we are not yet sure of what is the next way forward there. So Swami Kuvalananda, Digambarji, and Maheshwarananda. This is the pathway of Kaivalya Dhamma. But Madhav Das ji is the guru of Kuvalananda. He is also the guru of Sri Yogendra. The last name on that list because it's alphabetical. So Yogendra is Y, so he is the last on the list, not because he's last, but alphabetically. Sri Yogendra, who founded the Yoga Institute of Santa Cruz in Mumbai, erstwhile Bombay. The oldest organized yoga institute in the world is the Yoga Institute of Santa Cruz. And it was founded by Sri Yogendra Desai. And Sri Yogendra, a very flamboyant type of personality, you never knew what he would be like. He was given the grounding by his wife, Ma Sita Devi. Ma Sita Devi, the wife of Sri Yogendra, gave that grounding to him. And there's a beautiful photo of Swamiji, Ammaji, myself at the Yoga Institute with Yogendra ji, with Sita Devi ji, and of course their daughter-in-law Hansa ji. That day, Jaidev ji, their son, was busy with the class, so he's not in the photo. And Hansa ji's son, who has passed away tragically a few years ago, who was called Patanjali. Sita Devi, the dynamic women power of the Yoga Institute, I'll tell you. The men were only busy teaching. The women are the ones who set up the whole institute. Ma Sita Devi set the pattern that Yogendra ji's son, Jaidev, one of the most amazing philosophers, he did his PhD in Sankhya in those days, a huge thesis. And recently I got a new book, commemorative volume from the Yoga Institute, where for the last 40 years, his editorials in the monthly journal, they are put together. Beautiful tribute to, they used to call him also Dr. Sir. So I feel humbled when I realize that. Dr. Jaidev ji, his wife, Hansa ji, one of the most dynamic women powers of India. And she is in our governing council of the Indian Yoga Association. She had a television series on yoga. One of the first series on yoga were in national television. In those days, we had only one television channel, Doordarshan. Was her yoga series that brought her to fame. The second yoga series was by my beloved Ammaji. So these two women, both amazing women, both of who married their own teachers and continued the tradition. So Hansa ji and Ammaji have had a parallel, and Hansa ji continues to share so beautifully. And whenever I meet her, the last time I met her was in the yoga festival in the UK. And what love she continues to share for me. And recently when she sent me that book, a personal message, that means so much. So the pattern, Sant Madhav Das, one linkage goes to Sri Yogendra, the Yoga Institute of Santa Cruz, Sita Devi, Jaidev, Yogendra, Hansaji Yogendra, and now continued by Rishikesh and others. The adopted son, Rishikesh, continues it now. On the other side, Kuvalananda, then Digambarji, Maheshwarananda, then Sri O.P. Tiwari, who was a direct student of Kuvalananda, continuing the work, and of course, my dear Subodh, who is the CEO of Kaivalya Dhamma, continuing to open the boundaries. And what amazing work is going on. So we have seen a few of the traditions already. The Shivananda tradition, okay, the Guru factory. Then you have the Krishnamacharya tradition, where you have these three-pronged, different streams. No wonder they call him the father of modern yoga, because the biggest influence in modern times on the yoga, especially the yoga, what do they call it, industry. The modern yoga industry definitely has come there. And then, of course, Swami Kolananda and Sri Yogendra Desai coming from the same Guru Parampara of Madhav Das ji. In between, we have Sri Dhirendra Brahmachari. I already told you a bit of him, the guru of both Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, as well as Nehru's daughter Indira Gandhi. Well, Dhirendra Brahmachari was a very unorthodox yogi. He was the director of the Central Council for Yoga, and Swamiji was a member, and they never could see eye to eye. And whenever Swamiji and Ammaji would travel to Delhi for the meetings, and I would be with them, we would meet Swami Dhirendra Brahmachari. His ashram became, Vishwayatan ashram became the Moraji Desai National Institute of Yoga later. And whenever we met him in the coldest weather of Delhi, in the middle of winter, he would have his white dhoti and just a white shawl on him. No sweater, nothing. He had an amazing aura about him. He had that tejas. He had that tejas. He had that power. It was amazing, actually, no wonder. But at the same time, he had another side. And the funny side is he had a gun factory. Imagine a yogi with a gun factory. And the gun factory was called Shiva Gun Factory. You think I'm cooking this up? This is real history. He had a gun factory. I think it was in Shimla. And he actually used to fly his own planes and helicopters. And he actually died in a helicopter crash. Now, there are stories that say he was done by because he knew too many of the secrets. You never know in helicopter crashes because it's like Princess Diana. You never know, was it an accident or was it a knockoff? Well, same type of thing here, yes. And he had a yoga TV show. And this is why when Ammaji put her show, he got a bit mad and got her show off the track. And then we fought back and got it back on. But he and Swamiji had the run-ins. Amazing man. And his Stula, Sukshma, Vyayama practices, they are amazing practices to work on every part of the body. Swamiji, I'm not going to talk about in this context here. Iyengar, I've already talked about. But all I will say is Iyengar's continued work. He was the first founding president of Indian Yoga Association. And his son, Prashant, has continued that work. And Prashantji, again, he has an amazing intellect, amazing writer in his own right. Swami Jyotirmayananda, I told you, Swami Shivananda's disciple who went to the USA. Kambali Swamigal and Kanakananda Bhegu. Well, now I have to come into this. Well, Kambali Swamigal was a Siddha who lived about 150 years ago in Pondicherry. And Kambali means a blanket. So this guru, he had a lot of siddhis, lot of miraculous powers. And he used to walk around naked because he was a Digambari. Digambari means they don't wear clothes. And what happened is that the French had a rule that if you didn't wear clothes, you would be put in the jail. So when Kambali Swamigal would walk around town, his disciples, devotees would throw blankets around him to cover him up. And because he was covered by blankets, he became Kambali Swamigal, the Swami covered by blankets. Now, Kambali Swamigal was having a special habit. He used to go to the local water body, the lake, go under the water and sit for hours in meditation underwater. It was one of his powers. He used to do underwater meditation. I think he just wanted to get away from all the people out there. Because all these guys would be coming and Swamiji, can you find my lost cow? Swamiji, when do you think my daughter should get married? Swamiji, do you think I should go and buy this land or not? Swamiji, what is a good day to travel to Delhi? Swamiji, and he must have got tired. He said, I'm going under the water to meditate, to get rid of all these stupid devotees of mine. And he used to do this. And finally, he left his body under the water. So in Pondicherry, he is the only Siddha who has had Jala Samadhi. His Samadhi is underwater. And then he was placed in his Samadhi. And after that, Swami Ambalavana Swamigal and others have continued the tradition. 8 gurus down the line, Swamiji Gitananda Giri became the Madhadapati, revitalized the ashram, the madam, and well, I'm continuing his work ever since. When we talk about Kanakananda Bhrigu, Swami Kanakananda Bhrigu was Swamiji's yoga guru. And Swami Kanakananda is mentioned in the autobiography of a yogi by Swami Yogananda as the sleepless saint Kannoya. He was called Kannoya, the one who never slept. And he was also having the name Ram Gopal Mujumdar. He was a Bengali and he was working at Banaras Hindu University. Before it became Banaras Hindu University, it was first a college that got upgraded to a university. And his family perished in a fire, drove him mad, ran away into the forests, and over the years attained the knowledge through his guru, Vividishananda, who was a student of Swami Purnananda. Purnananda, Vividishananda, Kanakananda, and then Gitananda is the sequence. And this goes all the way back to Maharishi Bhrigu himself, the codifier of the Atharva Veda. This is why the Tantric tradition to which we belong is based on teachings that go all the way back to the Atharva Veda and Bhrigu himself. Swami Kanakananda had a great influence in Puja Gitananda Giri's life. I've talked about it on different occasions, written about it in different occasions, but all I will say is that he has given those teachings to Swamiji, and he opened Swamiji's mind to connect to the cosmos. More than anything, I think the gift of Kanakananda Bhrigu, the greatest thing a guru can do is not give you more information. The greatest thing a guru can do is help you connect to the source. And that is what Kanakananda did for Swamiji. He helped him connect to the source. And then after that, Swamiji is connected to the source, the cosmic record. Everything will flow. That is the most important thing. See, the Guru Shishya Parampara doesn't make a student dependent on the Guru. If the student is made dependent, it is not Guru Shishya, it is a business. Student should never be dependent on the Guru. The student should be independent. That is what the role of the Guru should be. And that's what he made Swamiji. I've talked about T. Krishnamacharya, Swami Kulainanda, Paramahamsa Madhav Das. Yes. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Transcendental meditation. This guy was the best ever salesperson of meditation in the world. And I tell you, the way transcendental meditation caught the fancy of the world, especially after the Beatles got involved. Because the Beatles got involved with Mahesh Yogi about 50 plus years ago. A couple of years ago, I was in Rishikesh for the yoga festival and they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Beatles coming there. And once the Beatles got there, everybody got into it. 20 minutes a day, your own personal mantra, and you shouldn't share it with anybody. And, everything that people thought spirituality is, he gave it to them for a price. And I tell you, it's astonishing what he was able to pull off. Very effective. Transcendental meditation has the most amount of research papers ever published. You go on the internet and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of papers because it caught the fancy of the neuroscientists. The most intellectual people said, what is happening? People are meditating for 20 minutes a day and changing their lives. What's happening? I tell you, it was a huge mass movement. And wow, seriously. But then what has happened after that? What has happened after that? And I think this is again something we need to look at, all these mass movements that then have fizzled out. Dhirendra Brahmachari was the supreme power of yoga in India. And today, most people in yoga in India don't even know his name. I remind this to people because they say, oh, this guy is so well known. I say, well, 50 years from now, they may not be. Because the traditions will continue. The traditions will never die. The traditions will continue. And that is why we have to be very careful. Another secret many people don't know. Mahesh Yogi had a student who today has become even more popular. And that is Art of Living founder Sri Ravi Shankar. And he was with Mahesh Yogi, adopted Mahesh Yogi's style, and today has an amazing success again all around the world. And I won't be surprised if my dear Sri Ravi Shankar ji, who's now the chairperson of the Governing Council of Indian Yoga Association, and received his blessings over the last few years many times, and was very happy when he remembered my father with some beautiful words. I won't be surprised if Sri gets a Nobel Peace Prize in the next few years, because he has really been working on that, going to places where there's conflict and negotiating solutions. He's really got into the field on that, and amazing impact, amazing impact. So he was a student of Mahesh Yogi at that point. Ma Uma Shakti, she was a dynamic, energetic yogini who settled in the USA, but amazing Shakti. Speaking of Shakti, our own Ammaji is next. We have heard a lot of Ammaji over the past 10 days. What beautiful poetry has been read of Amma. Wow. I have just been enjoying her poetry that people have been reading. And if you want to understand Ammaji, read her poetry, because her whole universal perspective comes through that. And even her prose is like poetry at times. She is one of those people whose prose is poetry. And it's astonishing what her communication. Swami Muktananda, one of those controversial figures who had high octane energy and was working on the Siddhis, and Mahesh Yogi also worked on the Siddhi. They had a Siddhi program, and Muktananda promised Kundalini arousal and Siddhis, and then got into a lot of trouble with a lot of people. And I think many of these gurus, what happened is, I believe they were very honest, they were very well-meaning, and then just they got so much power, they couldn't handle it. And the moment that power came, they just, some wires got burnt, and then they didn't know what they were doing. And the worst part of them came out, because I have known many of these people, and they are not the demons they are made out to be. I'll tell you that much. So it's as if it's like a wire gets cut, a wire gets burnt, and something just goes off. It's we had a movie here in India, Rajinikanth again. Why am I talking Rajini so much? Called Indran Robo, where he creates this robo, and this robo is supposed to do all these good things, and then a person puts a red chip into it, and the robo becomes the villain. I think this is the type of thing that happens. Somehow what happens is, these people, they go out with the best of ideas, and then what happens? Every guru, you name them, and there's been controversy, either while they're alive or after their death. This thing of after the death bringing up controversy, I really don't like, because the person's not even around to defend themselves anymore. And that part I do feel, sometimes a bit bad about it. But then, well, skeletons in the closet, well, we all have so many. It's a very tough one. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, well, someone who is truly a realized soul, but the modern psychiatrist would classify him as a mad person and put him on tranquilizers and antidepressants and God knows what. I tell you, this is why, the spiritual geniuses today would have been classified as madmen. And even in those days, people thought Ramakrishna was mad, because he said, I can see God. And they're like, you cannot see God. I don't see God. So if you claim you can see God, you are mad, because I cannot see it. They didn't realize that, you had to have a new type of perspective to understand the divinity. And when Swami Vivekananda met him and said, have you seen God? He said, yes, as clearly as I see you. And Narendranath Datta, who was to become Swami Vivekananda, was blown apart by Ramakrishna. And well, history was made. History was made. Pattabhi Jais have talked about Ramana Maharishi. How can I not talk about Ramana? Ramana, the sage of the mountain. The sage of the mountain, whose most famous quotation, Nan Yar, who am I? And Summa Ire, just be still, be still. What beautiful teachings. If you ask me, I think in the last couple of 100 years, truly realized souls, I think I would put Ramana at the top. Ramana was truly realized and very down to earth, very practical. None of this hocus pocus magic, none of this, I'm going to save you stuff, none of that. He was down to earth. And when he had cancer of the shoulder, he was operated without anesthesia. And the doctors couldn't believe it. They said, isn't it paining? He said, no, that is the body, not Ramana. He had that capacity to transcend even the body pain during a surgery. Now, that tells you something about where he was. Amazing. Whenever I go to Tiruvannamalai, that mountain has such sacred space. And Ramana tapped into that. And no wonder Swamiji loved Ramana a lot and loved Ramana Ashram. Sridevi last night was telling a story of how they didn't have space for her. They said, come back after 3 weeks. And then she said, well, Swami Geetananda and Meenakshi Devi sent me, and they said, well, there's a space for you tonight if you want. That was the type of relationship Swamiji had with the ashram there. Very beautiful place, but again, becoming more and more commercialized these days. Baba Ramdev ji, the tycoon of modern Indian yoga. One of the top businessmen in India. He runs Patanjali factories that churn out everything from fast food noodles to biscuits to soaps to detergents, you name it, and his company makes it. And I'll tell you, we have not seen a phenomenon like Baba Ramdev ever. Amazing phenomenon. And the power of the television. He started off a couple of decades back, nobody knew him. And through Ashta TV, everyday teaching, Kapalbhati Anulom Vilom, Kapalbhati Anulom Vilom, with a heavy dose of, nationalism and, Bharat Mata Ki Jai. And seriously, what an amazing formula he's hit. And I am astounded by him. There are a lot of critics, but what I say is he is just what he is. He is very down to earth, very rustic, very down to earth. And I tell you seriously, when you're around him, you think you're around a small child. He has the childlike enthusiasm. It is quite amazing what he's been. Yeah, I hope it's coming back now. Yeah, I just been juggling between different internet providers. Swami Vivekananda was set out on this mission by his guru, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And ever since, Swami Vivekananda said, my dear brothers and sisters of America, well, the yoga world has not been the same. His address at the World Parliament of Religions, Chicago, and the impact it has had. Positive, negative, well, depends on which side of the perspective you are looking at. Some people feel it is where yoga got mixed with Vedanta. Some people claim that his version of yoga brought a lot of other religions into it to make it more palatable. There are a lot of perspectives, but Vivekananda has become the pin-up boy, the poster boy for the yoga movement for sure, no doubt about it. And again, what a life, short life, 40 years, and what he did in that 40 years. Amazing, amazing. And the whole Ramakrishna order, the Ramakrishna mutts, who have done phenomenal work for the sake of Indian culture, for the sake of Hinduism, for the sake of yoga, Vedanta, and the traditional systems. Yet, many people don't know that in the court, Ramakrishna Mutt, the Ramakrishna mission claimed they were not Hindu because they had to go around the government, which was trying to take over Hindu organizations. Yes, in India, the government took over Hindu organizations. And so Ramakrishna mission, they said, we are a sect that worships Ramakrishna and Sharada Devi. We are not a Hindu organization. That is actually the submission in the court. You can go and Google it and find those documents, which is weird because in my opinion, there is no organization that has done more for Hinduism than the Ramakrishna mission. Their books are the best books on Hinduism. Their commentaries are the best commentaries on the Vedas and the Upanishads and all. And so it is so ironical that such an organization in modern India, free India, had to claim that they were not Hindu. My father was really critical of that. He said, even if I die, I'm going to not stop calling myself Hindu and fighting for the rights, despite the government taking over the madam, based on the fact that a Hindu religious institution. Paramahamsa Yogananda, the second last on this list, but last because we have talked of Yogendra. Well, who has not read Autobiography of a Yogi? You know, a number of people, especially if they are in yoga and in spirituality, I think you can count on two hands the number of people who have not read it, because it has been one of the most influential books, bringing people to yoga or giving them these crazy ideas that you'll have all these supernatural powers if you take up yoga. You know, all of that is also part of it. My father felt Swami Yogananda exaggerated quite a bit. And coming from my father, who was, you know, always people said he exaggerated a bit or a lot. You know, you can imagine what that meant. And my own father said that, well, you know, you have to read Autobiography of Yogi with, you know, quite a bit of salt. He said, you know, there are a lot of bits there, but still, what an amazing story. And it has really set fire to so many lives on this path. So amazing, amazing. And again, one of those gurus who went to the West and, well, got a bit trapped in the Western lifestyle and his fast cars and other stories. But still, the work, the self-realization fellowship, the Yogoda Satsanga has done, commendable work, and still so many people are benefiting from it. So many people are benefiting from it, that marvelous. Yes, Divya, I have really taken up time, but today is my storytelling session. So, you know, otherwise these are just names for you. I don't want these to just be names. These are human beings with the pluses and minuses. Pluses and minuses. Well, again, very difficult to say what are important ashrams, but just read out a few, Divya.
Some important ashrams of modern India. Mata Amritananda's ashram in Kerala.
The Hugging Saint. Yeah, as you say it, I'll just say a little bit so that I don't take too much time, but the Hugging Saint, the one who has the siddhi to overcome body odor, okay? Imagine hugging thousands of people, putting up with all the body odor. You have to be a saint to do that. She is amazing. I just cannot believe she is real. She is so amazing. Ammachi, they call her. Ammachi. Yes.
Ananda Ashram,
This is, yeah, Kanangad. Ananda Ashram and Kanangad, often their post used to come to us and our post used to go to them because both are Ananda Ashram. It was a very beautiful Ramdas. Ramdas was the name of the guru there. A very amazing person, and Swamiji had great affinity for him. One of those spiritually realized masters, Ramdas. Yes.
Ananda Ashram, Pondicherry.
No comments.
Aurobindo Ashram, Pondicherry.
I should actually say no comments for this also, but I'm not going to do that. Because if I gave you my father's version of Aurobindo Ashram, I would be nailed up on the next crucifix. So I'm not going to do that. But Aurobindo and the mother, you know, Aurobindo came to Pondicherry to escape the British because Pondicherry was French and he was a freedom fighter. And his birthday, 15th of August, is the same day of Indian independence. Very interesting how that comes together. It's like Deshikacha's birthday, 21st of June, is Divya's birthday, 21st of June. That became the International Day of Yoga, 21st of June. We have these funny parallels there. But Sri Aurobindo and the mother created the Aurobindo Ashram and created what is called integral yoga, Purna Yoga, where yoga as part of life, or rather life itself. And the most famous statement of Aurobindo that I love is, all life is yoga. All life is yoga is a very, very beautiful statement. Amazing work he has written, which sometimes is way beyond our comprehension. Because definitely he was writing from a very different place. And the work that he did and the mother did, well, created Aurobindo and the utopian idea of Aurobindo that is yet to happen. But the international township where, you know, everybody could come and be one. Well, people come to Aurobindo and they still retain, I am German, you are African, you are American, I am Irish. They still retain it. So, you know, dealing with human beings is always fraught with danger. That is why no system of governance has ever worked with human beings. Because, you know, it would be fine if you're dealing with animals or you're dealing with, you know, machines. But human beings will just mess up every system you can think of. And this beautiful idea of an international township, well, it's still utopian, but a lot of good work also has been done.
Swami Chinmayananda's Ashram, Sitbari.
Yes, Swami Chinmayananda, the most dynamic speaker on the Bhagavad Gita. He used to go around giving talks for days on end on different chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Gita Jnana Yajna, he would call them. That the wisdom of the Gita coming through a yajna, a deep introspective study. And the Chinmaya mission, which has done amazing work worldwide, schools, colleges, educational work, and again, standing up for Hinduism all over the world and doing amazing work. Swami Chinmayananda, he was one of those Vedantists, par excellence, par excellence. And his student, Swami Dayananda, created his ashram in Coimbatore. So Swami Dayananda was a student of Swami Chinmayananda, split away from his guru. And Swami Dayananda composed the most famous song you may have heard us sing, Bho Shambho, Shiva Shambho, Swayambho, Bho Shambho, Shiva Shambho, Swayambho. That is a composition of Swami Dayananda. And they have a wonderful ashram in Rishikesh also. And a lot of work with the Vedanta, the Upanishads. Excellent work. And he actually fought the government on the government takeover of temples. Got really actively involved in that, Swami Dayananda.
Jnanananda Tapovanam, Thirukoilur, Tamil Nadu.
Jnanananda was quite a saint, a couple of hours away from here, and his student Swami Haridas became very popular singing devotional music and created a beautiful temple at Vandavasi. And really, I remember going with Swamiji. We visited him when he hosted hundreds of the Swamijis. This was before the Ayodhya issue, and there was a huge discussion, and all the Swamis had come together. And Haridas Giri, who left his body at Prayag, Rudra Prayag in the Himalayas, where the Ganga is being formed. And Jnanananda, it is said Jnanananda at night, the story was he used to take his body parts apart and he would sleep with his hands and legs all separated. That was the story that used to come out about Jnanananda. And Ammaji remembers him visiting with Swamiji. Swamiji and him, Ammaji used to visit him. A very amazing influence here in this part of the world.
Swami Jyotirmayananda's ashram in.
We have talked about Jyotirmayananda, a student of Shivananda in the USA and then also in Ghaziabad. Kaivalya Dhamma we have talked about a lot. Patanjali Yoga Peeth is Ramdev Baba's place. Swami Muktananda's ashram in Ganeshpuri. Well, you Google Ganeshpuri and Muktananda, you're not going to get too good information. It's going to be quite scandalous, but amazing work they did. Again, one of those people who had amazing power and then a short circuit occurred. Swami Rama's ashram. Swami Rama, another very influential yoga master from India who went to the USA, took the world by storm by stopping his heart and all sort of experiments, and then had to come back to India with a lot of controversy, set up an amazing medical hospital at Jolly Grant, the Jolly Grant Hospital in Dehradun, where they also bring in quite a bit of yoga. I didn't know about it before, but they have a yoga department there and a lot of work being done. Swami Rama was quite an amazing influence, and his students, Swami Veda Bharati especially, has been one of the great examples of the highest state of yoga, and his ashram in Rishikesh, where the Himalayan tradition continues. And my dear Tomaji, wow, my big teddy bear who has written very beautiful books on yoga and psychotherapy. So very beautiful tradition. The Himalayan tradition has a lot of similarities to our own teachings. There are many similarities in Swami Rama's teachings and Swamiji's teachings. There are also similarities in Satyananda's teachings. I must tell you that. The Satyananda tradition, the Himalayan tradition and Swamiji's teachings, they sort of gel together quite well. Some of the other traditions, they don't gel so well, but these really gel together, I must tell you that. The Ramakrishna mission, of course, Ramana Ashram, I told you at Tirunamalai, Sri Ravi Shankar's Art of Living, Sri Sai Baba, Puttapati. Sai Baba is again one of those enigmas. Amazing siddhis, and what an influence on so many lives. No one could have actually know who he was, what he was. But still I know many people who find that praying to him and the belief in him has healed many. So there's something there, something which is beyond our understanding. Sheshadri Swamigal is again in Tirunamalai. Shivananda Ashram in Rishikesh, the Divine Life Society. Vivekananda Kendra in Kanyakumari, from where then Dr. Nagendra and Nagaratna Didi came and founded the SVyasa. Yoga Institute Mumbai and Yoga Niketan Rishikesh. Again, a list of some of the ashrams. There are even more. And there is a beautiful book called Yoga in India. And it is one of the best books depicting the real yoga centers in India, not the modern 200-hour, 100-hour yoga teacher centers, but the real traditions. It's called Yoga in India. And an independent team came from Germany, went around the ashrams documenting it. And they have a good website called Yoga in India. But the website, sort of everybody jumps onto it, but they have their own verified centers. And they really understood what we stood for when they came here. And they say it's not for anybody looking for a yoga holiday. And that's absolutely so true about us. So it was very well written by the people who wrote it. Now, the yoga research part, a lot of things have changed, but Divya can read out those names just so you have the names. I'm not going to talk much. Those names have already come when I talked about the researchers. But we do have the Central Council. So you could start with that, Divya.
Some important institutions doing yoga research in India are Central Council for Research in Yoga and Naturopathy, Ministry of Ayush of New Delhi, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, Benares Hindu University, Varanasi, UP, Defense Institute of Physiology and Allied Sciences, New Delhi, ICYR International Center for Yoga Education and Research, Pondicherry, JIPMER, Jawaharlal Nehru of Institute of Postgraduate Medical Education and Research, Pondicherry, Kaivalyadama, Lonavla, Maharashtra, Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, Chennai, Moraji Desai National Institute for Yoga, New Delhi, NIMHANS, National Institute of Mental Health and Neuroscience, Bangalore, Patanjali Yoga Peeth, Haridwar, Vyasa Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandana Samsthana, formerly BK Yogas, Bangalore, Vemana Yoga Research Center, Andhra Pradesh, and the Yoga Institute, Mumbai, Saita Mahatma Gandhi Medical College and Research Institute, Pondicherry.
These are the places where actually I would say the maximum research has been done. If you look at Vyasa, I think the highest output will be Vyasa because it's a deemed to be university. So you have master's degrees, PhDs, postdocs. So there's a lot of research output that then becomes published. If you look at the Moraji Desai, it has now moved from research into more becoming a yoga training center. And they are soon going to be a deemed to be university also. It's directly under the government as a national institute. And I'm part of their board of studies. We have been working on some new curriculum programs and all. And again, though I am very prejudiced here and not a bias, the work from Saita in Sri Balaji Vidyapeeth over the past 10 years, 137 publications, about 24 major research studies, and some of the papers that have come out, I would say at least 30 of those papers, I will say, are amongst the most cited and quoted papers in yoga research today. And every day I get a few messages from people, can you share this paper because we are doing our work in that field? And it's very gratifying. As a researcher, it is gratifying because you want people to read your research. And this is why I think, Swamiji's dream, because often I wonder, should I just leave all of that and focus on just sitting here in the ashram? Because given a chance, all I want to do the whole day is teach, and nothing else. Because that's sort of my dharma. But then I realized that Swamiji's vision of the integration of yoga with modern medicine needs to have me in a hospital setup. And that is one thing that keeps driving me there every day when I have to drive 1 hour to work and 1 hour back. And then I have all these existential questions about, is it all worth it? But then I think, well, if someone has to be a human bridge, well, I've been put in that position. And the university has created that space for it. There are so many institutions. And again, similar names will be found coming below again. But the names which didn't fall into the other categories, like Iyengar's institution, which is Ramamani Iyengar Institute, the Shivananda Ashram in Nayar Dham, founded by Vishnu Devananda, or say the Krishnamacharya Yoga Mandiram, founded by Sri Deshikachar, and of course, the Ashtanga Yoga Research Center, which is Patabi Joyce, and the Asana Andiyappan Center in Chennai, founded by one of Swamiji's students who helped so many people in Tamil Nadu get the yoga teachings in Tamil. So this is just to give you an idea that all of these people have been working for years and years and years and years. And that is why the Indian Yoga Association came into being. And all these traditions came together today. And I have been sharing with many of you the monthly that we put out from the Indian Yoga Association, where I'm the editor-in-chief. And if you look at that front cover, you will see all the major institutions who are part of the IYA, and the whole page has become full of the logos of all the institutions. That is how they have come together. And if you look at the back page, we are now having to remodel our back page because there are so many associate members, because the newer centers we have brought in as associates, including 2 of our centers in UK, both our Jnanadev's ashram, the Yoga Satsanga ashram, and Kalavati's Om studio have become associate members of the Indian Yoga Association. There is a provision for such members. And we used to have it in a small circle. It became a bigger circle. And this last month, we have had to put it in the whole page because now there are so many associated members coming in. This, I'm so happy about it, because any organization will have faults and fault lines. But the coming together is so important of all these Indian traditions. Still, the Bihar school has stayed away. They have had some very bad experience in the past with the government and organizations. So they have sort of kept away from it. And even the Ashtanga Center of Patabi Joyce has kept away. But other than that, if you look at it, I would say that all the major traditions have come together, including the popular ones, be it the Isha Yoga of Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev, which has become very popular these days with Isha Yoga and its system. They have a practice called Shambhavi Mahamudra, or the Sri Sri Art of Living, or Baba Ramdev's Patanjali Yoga Peeth, or the Yoga Institute, Kaivalya Dhamma, Moraji Desai National Institute, the Shivananda centers in Nair Dham. So many have come together. Ramamani Institute of Iyengar. Iyengar, I remember he said, you know, I've never been part of any yoga associations, but he was convinced to become the founding president of the Indian Yoga Association. And later on, we had a parallel Council for Yoga Accreditation. He said, I'm not coming into that. Till my death, I will only be part of Indian Yoga Association. And that those words remain true. And he, as the founding president, really set a very, very important pathway that is now being continued. And the Indian Yoga Association is one opportunity. I keep on telling people in the association, because often in our executive council, they don't realize it. What a responsibility we have to keep the Indian traditions of yoga together and offer a consolidated perspective to the world. Because the world wants to know, what is yoga? What is the standard in yoga? What does yoga mean? And for 4 years, I've been working on a document. We are still trying to finalize our statement on yoga. 4 years. That is the problem. We have been working on it so that we issue a consolidated statement. So when you have all these people come together, it's always difficult. But this is happening in India now. And I sometimes feel that the yoga industry in the West is feeling a bit threatened. And that is why now you have this whole yoga scholarship, which has started to happen in so many universities. Again, trying to say that, oh, the government of India is misusing yoga for the political agenda. Well, of course, yes, an Indian government will want to showcase India, and of the easiest soft power is yoga. So yes, there will be a political statement, but they have tried to tarnish it. The International Day of Yoga, people are trying to tarnish it as a political movement. It's not a political movement driven by what they call right-wing nationalist forces. It's not at all. I have been on these committees. I know what is happening in the meetings. I know what lies behind it. And then I find these people concocting such lies and trying to fight. So they don't want the traditions to come together. But that is why this type of document is important. And I'll be sharing another essay of mine on yoga in contemporary India, which gives a bit more detail about these centers and all. An article that I really enjoyed writing many years ago and updating a couple of years ago. It still needs a lot of updates because in the last 1 year, there's been so much of change in the Indian yoga front. So, a lot of updates, but I'll be sharing with you to understand this context, because we often forget the context of yoga in India. And that is what this chapter has tried to give you. And at the same time, you'll see that in today's class, I've also put another chapter, a very interesting another chapter, which is the most controversial chapter ever possible. Yoga and sports. And before I go into this, because I'm not going to read it out totally, but what I'm going to just tell you is, last year, the Government of India, Ministry of Sports, recognized Yogasana as a competitive sport. So Yogasana, and I'm being very clear in my words here, because this has been a very, very controversial topic for the past 5 decades. And we used to call it yoga sport. And how we used to define it is as a branch of yoga. Yoga is this huge tree with many branches, and one small branch is yoga sport. And in order to keep the yoga in it, over the years, we had so many events where the theory of yoga, that is where this book was created, to support the young people who were in this Yogasana competitions to also have the theory. And then we had the Swami Geetananda Best Youth, Best Child, where again, essay writing, drama, dance, slapstick comedy, anything came in to give the kids yoga as something much bigger than just asana. But when the government brought this out, again, the primary 2 energies, Baba Ramdev and Guruji Nagendra, the 2 most powerful people as far as yoga in India goes today, they got together, and so the government said, okay, we will recognize Yogasana sport as a competitive sport. And this means millions of young Indians can participate in these events and get the benefit that would come from winning in any other sport. Now we have to look at this grassroots level, that here are these young people who, if they were good in cricket, they're going to get a job someplace, they're going to get a scholarship for college, they're going to make some money in the Indian Premier League. If they are in football, they're going to get a job in the railways. If they're in hockey, they'll get a job in one of the nationalized banks. All of this was there, nothing for yoga. And now suddenly when it comes into this, you win a gold medal in the national, you may now land a good government job, your rest of your family's life has been taken care, a good government job in the railways, a good government job. See, you can imagine the impact it will have on so many of these young people who are not being supported in their keen interest. Because the best people, when you look at the Yogasana competition, the winners are usually from the bottom of society. They have such talent, but they could never pay enough to go for cricket coaching. They could never pay to get all the paraphernalia of golf. They couldn't pay to get all the stuff needed for archery and for shooting, but they can go for yoga class. And they have this amazing talent that now gets a chance to be recognized and supported. And this is why we support this. People say, oh, yoga is not competitive. Yes, yoga is not competitive. I do not deny that at all. But we are keeping a specific framework. It's like, my father used to say, when you can give yoga for someone having lung cancer who has smoked his lungs to death, why cannot you give it to a young boy and create a healthy body and a healthy mind for a healthy future? He said, why are you denying it to people? And he wrote an article long ago that was published on yoga and sports in one of the leading, in those days, yoga magazines in the UK. And I still have a copy. I'll share that with you. It's an old article. And in 1989, conducted the first competition so that this could be showcased. Olympic style, Olympic level, Olympic grade. And today, the dream of the National Yogasana Sports Federation. I have been elevated to the senior vice president recently. I was vice president. I turned down the presidentship because I don't have the time and energy to do too many things. And instead, there's a very young, dynamic president who has great vision to take it forward. Now, we don't mean to say these people are going to be given a prize for being the best yogi. This is how people misunderstand it. They are not going to be crowned the king of yoga. Yogasana sport is having a structure, they'll be winning it. And you get the youngsters into it. And out of thousands who come in, a couple of hundred will start to see the bigger picture, and a couple of tens and dozens will come deeper into it. That is how it happens always. The law of nature is from millions of sperms to create one human being. Same thing will happen. So we are creating a structure, and we are not saying yoga is competitive. This has been a very tough one for me to fight, because people say, oh, on one side you are for tradition and on the other side you are part of the yogasana sport. I'm like, yeah, both make sense to me because there's a context. But this has always been a tough one. Even my father struggled. So maybe Divya, you could read out that first para.
So you're going to update, when you update the book, you'll add it as yogasana sport.
Yeah, it will.
Read it out as that.
We used to call it yoga sport, but just to make sure that the controversy is taken away, they called it yogasana sport. That it is not yoga, but only the yogasanas are being used here. So it was to give it a more clear nomenclature, this has happened.
What is yogasana sport? The competitive aspect of yoga in relation to individuals or teams is known as yogasana sport. Various events have been conducted since the past few decades all over India and the world, and the first International Yoga Championship was held at Pondicherry in 1989 by Dr. Swami Geethananda Giri under the patronage of Vishwa Yoga Samaj. Since then, more than 25 international championships have been held all over the world.
We have given some names of some of the founding fathers. I'm not going to go into detail there. And even all of these federations now have become redundant, because now we have a national federation and there's an international yogasana sport federation. So it has everybody's sort of come under one banner. There are still some court cases. There are people who are splitting federations. The usual politics will be there, cannot avoid it. And 1989 is the year when this happened. And I'll share with you that article and some amazing events that were done at that time. At the same time, I like people to always realize that yoga and sport are not one and the same. And this I owe to Trisha Lamb-Feuerstein and her article I shared after the last class, in which this has been very beautifully brought out. And in fact, I was talking about this to the medical students at our college today. We had a lecture during the physiology hour on yoga and the science and the concept of yoga and sports, or yoga and exercise is also good. So maybe Divya, you could read out that chart.
Some differences between yoga and sports. Yoga is a parasympathetic dominance. Sports is sympathetic dominance. Yoga is slow, involves slow and static movements, while sports involve rapid and forceful movements. In yoga, muscle tone is normalized. In sports, there's an increased muscle tension. Yoga involves low calorie consumption, while sports involve higher calorie consumption. Yoga for sure gives a low risk of injury, while sports a higher risk of injury. Yoga, the effort is minimum and relaxed. In sports, effort is maximum and tense. Yoga is energizing activity. Sports is fatiguing activity. Yoga is natural and controlled breathing. Sports breathing is taxed. In yoga, the balanced activity of opposing muscle groups, while in sports is imbalanced activity of opposing muscle groups. In yoga, process is oriented, while in sports, goal is oriented. Yoga, the focus is on internal awareness, while in sports, the focus is on external awareness. Yoga involves infinite possibilities for growth in self-awareness, while in sports, boredom factor as there is no higher philosophy or goal than the body.
I must say that I've been a bit hard on sports in this comparison, because being a sports person from my childhood, I love sports, but at the same time, I always remind people at the end of a sports session, you're definitely going to be tired and fatigued. If you feel the same way at the end of a yoga session, you're not doing yoga, it is exercise. Because at the end of a yoga session, you should feel energized, refreshed, which otherwise doesn't happen. There was one term there where, Divya, you added an extra word and you changed the meaning. It is process oriented, not process is oriented and goal is oriented. It is process oriented, means that in yoga, what we do is that we are looking at the whole process, not really where you go. Though we say Kaivalya is there, it is on following each step as it is to be done. Whereas in sport, ultimately the goal is always on winning. So this is where the controversy comes. When you say yogasana sport, what is the goal? Yes, they want to win the gold medal, no doubt about it. But this is where it is important that the people who are taking it forward need to again remember that yoga must be process oriented. You do yoga for the sake of yoga. What comes, the gold medal, the silver medal, the bronze medal, is going to come on its own. So there has to be a bit of a change in attitude. I know it's going to be difficult, but sports is always like the goal is out there, whereas in yoga, the goal is in here. I think that's a very different perspective. And Swamiji used to often talk about that. He said in yoga, what happens is as you grow, there are infinite potentialities that you can keep growing. It's endless. Whereas at the sport, after you win 20 Wimbledons, you sort of say, what is there in life anymore? I remember so many of the sports people, after their career have actually asked these questions. What's the use of me jumping again and again to a gold medal when there are people who are dying of, hunger in Ethiopia? There have been people who have actually asked that question. And I love those type of sports people because, it starts to hurt you that what is the next step? Where do I go from here? And again, by the time you're 40, Dhoni, our Indian cricketer, he's 40 and they're saying he's too old to play. Now, 40 and too old to play, I think, sports, especially some of the, you look at gymnastics, anything about 25 and you're old, anything about 25, you're old. And so many of the sports, unless you get into maybe golf, I think golf, you have people who are, in the elderly age who are still winning, majors and other things. But even there, again, it boils down to strength, endurance, stamina. And whereas yoga doesn't look at that, you become better, you go deeper. So not trying to downgrade sports, but there's a path. And there is a word, krida, actually. I will type it out. I will check up this krida. I believe it is Krida. Krida is actually, I believe, the Sanskrita word for sport. So yogasana krida. I think from this krida must have come the Hindi word khel. Khel in Hindi, Khel, means a game. So yogasana khel is actually how yogasana sport would be said in Hindi. Yogasana khel. And this krida, and some people used to call it as krida yoga. Yoga sport, they used to call krida yoga. That was another, or yoga as a game. When you make yoga games like what we do with the kids at Yoganjali would be a lot of krida yoga, where you make it fun and frolic and you're crawling around making noise like a donkey, monkey, and, giraffe and all that type of stuff. All of that would be krida yoga maybe in that way. Okay, over to you, Divya, for the summary. It's a very difficult chapter to summarize. So instead of just giving you a bunch of names, we try to sort of put a few of the traditions together And Divya will highlight that for you now.
I think when I was making the summary, I missed out a person from the Swami Shivananda tradition, but I've added a name. If I'm wrong, please pardon me. When I'm sending it to you, I'll edit it properly. In lesson 13, initial tradition, well, no order here, just it just was what I worked on first. So Swami Shivananda tradition, we had Swami Chidananda Saraswati, Swami Satyananda Saraswati, Swami Vishnu Devananda Saraswati, Swami Sachitananda, and Swami Jyotirmayananda. So please, no order here. It's just we have just put them in a random order based. And then Sant Madhavdas tradition, we had Swami Kuvalayananda and Sri Yogendra. Sri T. Krishnamacharya under his tradition. We saw Sri BKS Iyengar, Sri Patabi Joyce, and Sri TKV Desikachar, his own son. And then the Kambi Swami tradition, which is believed to come all the way from Srila Sri Agastya Swamigal, Srila Sri Kambi Swami, Srila Sri Amblavana Swamigal, Srila Sri Manika Swamigal, Srila Sri Shanmuga Swamigal, Srila Sri Velu Swamigal, Srila Sri Subramanya Swamigal, Srila Sri Shankaragiri Swamigal, and Srila Sri Geetananda Giri Swamigal. And then the Rishi culture tradition, which is believed to come all the way from Srila Sri Brigu Maharishi, Swami Purnananda Brigu, Swami Vividishananda Brigu, Swami Kanakananda Brigu, and Swami Geetananda Brigu. And then on to the other chapter that we saw. What is Yogasana sport? The competitive aspect of yoga in relation to individuals or in teams is known as Yogasana sport. And the various events have been conducted since the past few decades all over India and the world. The first International Yoga Championship was held at Pondicherry in 1989 by Swami Geetananda Giri under the patronage of Vishwa Yoga Samaj. And since then, more than 25 international championships have been held all over the world. When and where was the first International Yoga Championship held? 1989 at Pondicherry, India. And in 1993 at Pondicherry, India, we had the International Yoga Festival. So that was the initial one. And every year it has been happening in the month of January, usually the initial week of January, it happens. But because of COVID, unfortunately, I think 2020 had to go without the International Yoga Championship. Hopefully, and then 2021 also. So yes, thank you everyone. And we'll be having a 14th one on the concept of stress. So I think that will have a lot of explanation and a lot of moving concepts in that. And once again, happy Vijay Dasmi to all of you. And I hope, I think it's special on this day, we could see all the great personalities. And, you know, it was wonderful how everyone has inspired the world in different ways. And rather than thinking only this is our tradition, you know, we have to be open to all the traditions and see what we can, you know, what can inspire us from each of them, what's the good in them and all of that. So I think we'll conclude our session here. Thank you for being here with us on this special day. And we'll be having our 14th session in our next class on the topic of stress. Please join me. We'll conclude the session with the prayers that we do usually. Oh. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावतीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ Thank you, everyone. And please join us on the concluding session of Navaratri 2021 tomorrow at 6 p.m. live on Facebook. See you all very soon.